Hear me? Is that okay? Great. So thanks everybody for coming. I think we're probably waiting for a few more people from lunch, so maybe they still need to have their coffees, but hopefully they can join in soon. I'm Shum Singh. I'm the founder and MD of Agnitio Capital. We are an investment bank based in London, founded in 2003. What we really specialize in is providing merger and acquisition advisory services to founder-owned, founder-led studios in the industry. We've been exclusively focused on the video games industry for 15 years. What we've learned and honed over the years is really understanding the main sort of concerns or issues that affect founders when they want to exit their businesses. Will they continue to have creative control? Will they have independence in terms of hiring decisions? Will they be able to preserve the culture, identity, and DNA of their studios? So we often hear, the same sort of recurring concerns, issues, and so what we've managed to do over the years is really identify who would be the right sort of strategic partner. Because for a lot of game founders, as you'll know, it's a super passionate industry, and people are really tied to what they've created, and so want to ensure that they end up in a situation with the right party. And so what we really pride ourselves on is finding that right partner, finding that true synergy, so that it's not only a good deal financially, but it's a good deal post the transaction is announced, and so that the integration is seamless and that people can stay and be rewarded for the earn-out period post the deal is done. With that in mind, I'm going to let Enrique introduce himself, but we've obviously had the pleasure of working together back when Enrique was the CEO and co-founder of Genera Games and Genjoy, but I'll let him introduce himself, please.
Thank you, Shum. Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks, Ivan, for inviting us to Gamelab 2023. I'm sure it's been a success. And for me, it's also special because it's going to be the first time I participate into an event being part of Scopely. So it's a pleasure to share with you our learnings on the M&A side. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself, as Shum did. I started many years ago, don't know how many, but many, on the telecoms sector, working at Vodafone Group in the different divisions. And after a while there, my partner, Jose Miguel, and me, we were already feeling and thinking about the future need that the mobile phones were going to have. I'm talking about the year 2000, 2003, 2004. So basically, we both decided to leave the telecoms, leave Vodafone, and start a company in order to create content for mobile devices. Okay, Jose Miguel was the first. He started the Genera Games as Genera Interactive at that time. I joined while after, and we envisioned a company thinking on the way we could create that specific content for mobile devices, but thinking to reach the wider audience. No? So that was the opportunity. With Genera Games, we had a lot of fun. We went through opening offices across the many different countries during the year 2008 and 2013. Before that, we became major content providers for not just Vodafone, but Movistar. And that was probably the most, our big chunk of revenues were coming from these two mobile operators, and we were able to invest on opening these offices and opening the market in another different countries like UK, Mexico, Romania, China, in Shanghai, Brazil, several. Most of them were failures, you know. So in the year 2012, 2013, we had the opportunity to jump into games. Before, we were doing all types of content regarding kids, interactive books, with some mini games on it. We had always the DNA of games creating and games making. And in the year 2013, we had the opportunity to jump in straight into Disney in order to create the first mobile game that we were doing for an external partner. And that was a huge success. Before were just Java games, J2ME games that we were providing to mobile operators. In 2013, with the launch of the Frozen movie, we were able to publish together with Disney Frozen Free Fall. That was a big success and opened the doors for us of the Hollywood studios in LA and all the West Coast. So that, you know, was the beginning of our 100% focus on games. We developed many different games, somehow successful. With Lucas, for example, we did Star Wars Puzzle Droids, we did Shrek's Sugar Fever with Universal Pictures. With DreamWorks, we did a Kung Fu Panda game. We were splitting between our own IP games that were small and not very ambitious, and the IP games that we were doing with these Hollywood studios. Every time we were doing our own IP games, we were struggling on the go-to-market strategy because we were more game makers and developers and producers, but not that much marketeers or publishers or economy designers. So in the year 2018, we thought that we had to create a spin-off of Genera Games in order to focus more on our own IPs and try to be a bit more ambitious in order to hit the market. Before were just prototypes and games that were not that interesting, not that attractive for the mobile market. And in the year 2018, we constitute Genjoy SL. That is the name of our actual studio in Sevilla. It's Genjoy Scopely Studio. With Genjoy, we start developing 2 own IP games. And we launched the first one, that was Tuscany Villa, in the year 2019, but struggling a lot on the go-to-market strategy. Thinking that we had something very special in our hands because we had a lot of expertise working with Disney, with Lucas, with DreamWorks, Universal Pictures, Mattel. We thought we had a very high-quality game. Not sure if some of you have played it or not. It's still live. It's a match 3 type of game, casual, but it has a very nice narrative, very nice graphic. Everything is very polished. And in the year 2019, we published it. But as I said, struggling month by month on the UA side, getting the right contacts with the different platforms, and that became an issue for us. We were investing, that first year we invest close to 5 million euros in UA, but we were not succeeding, we were not meeting the expectations. So that's when we found out that we were needing a big brother. We were needing someone else to help us on the go-to-market strategy. And that's why we start in the year 2020, beginning of 2020, to contact with Shum and thinking about the way we should prepare the company, to prepare the studio to partner with someone else, with a bigger player. I have extended a bit more my introduction, but it's just to give you more context about the rest of the questions.
Oh, that's
Okay.
great. Thank you for that, Enrique. And maybe I'll just ask a couple of questions just leading up to that. I mean, you mentioned, the sort of new business entity you created for, your original IP. And maybe I think it would be interesting for the audience if you maybe explain, I think when you launched that new IP, especially Tuscany Villa, that actually had a pretty successful launch. And I think that also helped you make that decision to enter into a process, right? And I guess the question I'm going to ask is, why did you consider in the first instance even selling? I mean, you mentioned you're looking for a big brother, but why at that stage?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It's true that our studio was basically very well prepared for creating the type of games that we were doing, Tuscany Villa and another one, also casual and very much related with puzzle, this type of games. But it's true that on the publishing side, we were not that ready. We were able to benchmark compared to other big players in the market that were publishing and were investing in a much bigger scale. So that's when, our P&L was really struggling to find out the way we should proceed, either if asking for money, asking for someone else to help us on the live ops side, or thinking more in the bigger picture, 2, 3, 5 years ahead. And on one side, answering your question, Tuscany Villa helped a lot because some of the big players came to ask about our openness to talk about possible stake in the studio or an M&A process. And Tuscany was speaking by itself as a quality game that was very well polished, very well done, but it was missing some of the parts that we were not able to include in the game, like the monetization side. On the live ops event side, we had maybe 2 or 3 events versus our competitors that had 10, 20, or changing every 2 weeks, every week. So Tuscany Villa had a lot to say there, and we had at least 4 or 5 of the big players coming in together with you and talking about possibilities of moving forward together.
And having gone through that process, which is never a fun exercise, what were some of the, let's say, pros and cons of the process that you could share some wisdom with the audience?
Well, on one side, looking back, it's true that we see a lot of positive things. It's true that thinking in October 2020, that is when we were able to sign the deal. We signed it in Madrid. We signed it completely in a remote way. All the different meetings and due diligence and everything was done remotely, and we were able to sign the deal in a lawyer's firm in Madrid It was a bit strange. And looking back and thinking we were in the middle of the pandemic, I don't think we would be doing things in a very different way at all. You know, I think we did it because it was the momentum. It's true that to me, as CEO of the company, I was demanding more time those days. Remember, jumping on calls every night and not having time to prepare things, thinking that we were not prepared to do something like that because our P&L, our all descriptions of roles and positions were not explained well. I thought we were rushing too much, but actually now I think about that, and I think we did it because we had to do it. And with this type of operations, either you are very much convinced about what you have to do and you move forward, or if you think too much about other possibilities or other options, probably the train goes by and you will not be able to jump in anymore, you know? So advantages, I see a lot. I see a lot because now we are much stronger in terms of publishing any of our creations, any of our games. We have a partner, we are part of a company that believes in what we do. Scopely was very excited since the very beginning about the way we were approaching our games creativity and the way we wanted to create experiences that could live for many years, you know, and creating amazing experiences. And I cannot say it in terms of comms, probably the timing, you know. We did a timeline in order to be able to close the deal, but regarding the M&A process, it was a bit of a nightmare, those several weeks or short months, maybe a few months only, to get everything ready, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Knowing what you know now and having been through that process, is there anything that you might have done slightly differently, you know, in retrospect, or not really?
Not really. You know, that's what I was trying to answer before. We were in the middle of that strange period, you know, working at home, all of us, without seeing each other and not knowing what to do with the office, for example. We had a very nice office in Sevilla, but we were struggling with this Tuscany Villa game that we were very proud of, but that we could not do more, you know. That I think the match we did together with the different big players gave us a right answer in order to move forward with Scopely, because the match was much more accurate and much more aligned to our long-term strategy versus other partners or other big players. So, except for timings, the rest, I think we would be doing it in the same way, you know.
Let's talk maybe a little bit more about Scopely, because you mentioned, you know, you kind of, what really was the catalyst or the rationale for choosing them as, you know, the big brother, right, compared to some of the other parties that you were chatting with? What really attracted you know, you guys as founders of Genera to Scopely?
Well, I think it was the company that we were able to communicate and meet in a more often way. We had, during 2-3 weeks, we had maybe 15, 20 different meetings with them, and we were able to find out a lot about what they were proposing. It was not just about evaluation. It was about digging and diving deep into what we wanted, into what we were, into our feelings, into which was our vision for the coming years. And at the same time, we were envisioning a Scopely culture and values very close, very similar to what we had at that point. So I believe that learning from Scopely about the way they were organized and divisions, they have a special division just for puzzle. That was really important for us versus any of the others that had other type of games. And also the confidence that Scopely had on us focusing just on our own IPs. That was something really valuable for us because, we had in the P&L like 8 different projects at that time, and 6 of them were branded games, were games that we were co-developing with Hollywood studios. And only 2 were our own creations, and we could not invest that much into those 2 versus the other ones. And, that was some kind of probably the biggest catalyst, hearing from Javier Ferreira to focus what we were thinking if we could just focus on our own creations. That was like sparkling water, coming from a very clear fountain. I don't know how to express it, but it was something very important for us, and to be able to create those evergreen games based on our own creations, own IPs.
What sort of, now that the deal's been a few years, you've kind of, really integrated with Scopely, what sort of recommendations during that process would you have for independent studios, that might be considering, that might be in a similar position or considering their options at the moment?
Well, I think it's key to be clear and have a very strong decision about that you want to start an M&A process. If you doubt and you don't have it clear, that's probably a weakness. Once you feel that you need to do it, probably the best I can think of is to draw a timeline with enough time to prepare the company in order to do it. Try to dig and research enough among the big players and among the different companies that could fit the studio or the company best, in terms not just of looking for valuation, that probably is the most important for bootstrap studios like we were, but thinking on the mid-term, long-term strategy of the studio, of the company, thinking on the people that are working together and the way you feel those guys would like to keep working in the future. By that time, we felt very well working all together, and we had the strong belief that we wanted to continue to work in the same way. So that's something that you need to be clear, unless you need to or you want to change dramatically the way you make games. you need to think about the cultural side and the value and the mission of that big player that you are looking for, and spend time evaluating the different options, not to rush, although once you have one or two proposals, probably you need to be very agile in order to close something, you know.
And then what sort of synergies do you feel that you've managed to unlock with Scopely, you know, or you know, clear advantages? I mean, you talked a little bit about, you know, finding a big brother that could offer you, you know, kind of marketing expertise, UA, publishing. How has that kind of changed maybe your mindset? You know, since you mentioned, you know, you guys are game makers first, and you know, you had the opportunity to focus on evergreen IPs. How has that worked out for you?
Well, to tell you the truth, right now it's true that the decision making probably it's a bit more complicated, but at the same time, I think we make smarter decisions. You know, the decision making process is more effective. At least I have that own feeling. In parallel to that, I think we've been able to be in a completely different position for top talent recruiting, for example, which we used to struggle a bit before. We didn't have the enough financial muscle for top talent to join us. Also, the different publishing strengths that we get right now from Scopely central teams, it's immense compared to what we had before. And overall, the strategy we have at Scopely, it's really ambitious, really inspiring for us, and we feel very much aligned. I think that's key, to be part of something really big, something much bigger than what we were expecting 3 or 4 years ago. Even now, after the Savvy Games acquisition of Scopely, we feel even more proud and more empowered to do amazing things in the market across different platforms, not just mobile, but web and PC, console. And it's like our dreams, you know, and the strategy and the objectives, it's at the sky level, you know. So.
And I'm just going to change a little bit gears, you know, on the current market outlook for M&A. Let's say, and let's maybe focus on Spain. How do you see the market, you know, here domestically? And do you think, I mean, you know, I sat in on a couple of talks earlier today, and everybody seems quite optimistic. Everybody's talking about bigger and bigger studios relocating, setting up, you know, presence here in Barcelona and other parts of Spain. How does that translate into M&A activity?
Well, I think the mobile market for free-to-play games, it's really tough at the moment. It's getting very, very complex, and only the big sharks, the big players, are the ones hitting the top rankings. It's true that there are many different studios around the geography, Spanish geography, that can do very well on the creative side, and have good programmers inside, although it's true that the business, the real business of hitting those top rankings are part of the big players. So at this point, I've been a bit out of the M&A market. I think that there are still opportunities. Probably the financial markets do not help that much because, you know, there is a lot of uncertainty. And probably that reduces a bit some of those go-to action and possibilities of movements around the M&A side. But I believe companies like Scopely or any of the other big players are always looking for talent, looking for good programmers, people being able to create good experiences for customers. And it's something that is always there, you know. M&A is a reality. Right now, we have a strong strategy of growing. In Spain, we need to grow. In Sevilla, we are maintaining, and we are part of this Monopoly Go game, which is doing amazingly. One of the biggest launches, or maybe number one on the casual side for 2023. And it's a reality that we need to grow. And recruiting, as we discussed before, is not easy. There is a lot of competitors, and M&A, it's also a possibility, and it's something always very valuable for companies, either big or medium or small, in order to grow, you know.
Right. And then I think we'll finish up with one last question, and I do want to hopefully open the floor to some Q&A if we have a little bit of time. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about Monopoly Go, because as you mentioned, it has been literally an overnight success, and, you know, consistently in the top grossing charts and most downloaded games. I mean, it's really taken the world by storm. You know, so how can you tell us about that? How it came to fruition and it just exploded?
Yeah, well, for us it's like a dream come true, because although it was our dream to do the same with our Tuscany Villa game, we couldn't do it. It was our own IP. Now Monopoly Go is not our own IP, but we've been able to do what we had in mind, and together with other two studios in Scopely. But at this point, you know, we feel Monopoly Go, it's really special. Massimo Maietti, the GM for Monopoly Go, is attending some different events and talking more about the way we've been able to create this game. And I feel it's a different way to approach an evergreen IP as it is Monopoly, with a much more social aspect in order to play together among the different communities. We are very, very excited and very happy to be part of the project, and I'm sure this is just the beginning of what we have in mind for Monopoly Go. In the coming quarters, you will see every single feature and the big plan that we have for this game, that I'm sure will be amazing.
Great. Then I think maybe if the audience has any questions to ask, we'd certainly love to hear. Oh, there's one.
One question there. We don't have much time, but
Yeah.
just
It
4
will
or
be
5
quick.
minutes.
I think, well, I was late, so sorry for that. I don't know if you mentioned how long the process took for the M&A process.
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to say from start to finish, it took us about 6 or 7 months, roughly,
more or less.
more or less.
Yeah.
How many employees did you have?
At that time, we were split between the two studios. We were 140, 150.
Well, I think that's it. But thank you very much
All
to
right.
Enrique, and
And thank you, Shum.
yeah.
Thank you, Shum.
Thank you.